All right, so the beginning is the graphing. So I think I said it yesterday, but just to reiterate the logistics of your test, there are 6, did I get that right? Hang on. 6, find the equations, divided between parabolas, ellipses, and hyperbolas. There is 3 graphing, and 2 of those are complete the square. So you will have to graph, obviously, and then or you're going to complete the square and then graph. The find the equations, I think, ended up being like 7 points apiece or something around there. And then the graphing, the one without the complete the square, ended up being, I want to say it's like 15 points. And then the complete the square are 20 points apiece. So you definitely, and the complete the square comes at the end. So if you want to fast forward to the end, like if you find yourself getting hung up on the equations, feel free to flip to the end and start with the complete the square ones and then work your way backwards. However you want to do that is up to you, but do not leave questions blank, okay? You definitely got to work your time. On that note, I have you first tomorrow. Get here on time. And by on time, folks from home, I mean 7:56. I don't mean I'm going to sleep just a little bit later because I'm at home and get there at 8:03. I mean 7:56, okay? I want to give you the 50 minutes to take this. That means we have to start at 8. So do not be late tomorrow. Make sure you are on time. Don't be on like the random bell schedule that's going on in which you could take your sweet time. When your watch says 7:56, you better be in front of that camera and you better be set up to go. And then you guys want to be in this room, okay? That gives us that like 4 minutes for me to let you in, take your attendance, and then get you started on your test so that you have the time. All right, so let's start with this first group, the graphs of the parabola. Any questions from this section? Madeline?
On 2, isn't the directrix x equals 9 and the axis of symmetry y equals 6?
Did I switch them? Directrix?
I think so.
Yeah. Axis of symmetry is definitely y equals, yes. This is the axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, that's the axis of symmetry. And I didn't even put on here the other one, right? So what was this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep. So directrix x equals 9. Yes, that is correct.
For number 1, or
yep.
for any question,
yep.
does the directrix have to be an improper fraction?
No, I would take either answer. So I don't know if you heard her from home, but does the answer for directrix have to be this? No, I would take either one. The biggest thing is that the directrix has to be a line. So remember, the directrix and the axis symmetry have to be x equals or y equals. You don't want to lose points on silly stuff like that. Your focus and your vertex are your coordinate points, but you want to make sure the other 2 are lines. They have to have the y equals. You will lose points on that stuff. Any other questions from 1, 2, or 3? Okay, then 4, 5, 6 are, here's information about the parabola. You give me the equation. Madeline.
I'm sorry.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, so on number, never mind.
We'll get there, I promise. It's easier to go page by page instead of jump around. Everybody's good on 4, 5, 6? Yeah.
I don't really understand number 6.
Okay. So number 6 says that there's a vertex at 0, 0, right? So I drew this out. I drew which I would always recommend when they give you the stuff about the equation and you're finding it, still draw yourself a picture. There's my vertex. Symmetric to the x-axis means if I fold it at the x-axis, whatever's on top is going to overlap on bottom. The only way that happens is if it's a horizontal parabola. If it said it was symmetric to the y-axis, then it would be like this or it would be like this. Okay, so this would be symmetric to y. This one says symmetric to x. So that means it either points to the right like this, or it could point to the left. But that's what this point tells me. So that point tells me it's passing through 3, 6. So I'd go to the right 3 and up 6. And now I know my parabola has to point to the right. So it has eliminated the option of pointing left. So now it's pointing to the right. When it points to the right, that means it's a y squared with a positive 4p. My vertex is 0, 0, so that's my h and that's my k. And then my coordinate point, which I just drew all over, what is that, 3, 6? Is my x and my y. So because it's a y squared with a 0, 0 vertex, I know my standard form is y squared equals 4px. The y is 6, the 4, the p I don't know, and the x is 3. So I end up with 36 equals 4 times 3 is 12p, and then divide both sides by 12, and I get p is 36 divided by 12, which is 3. Then I'm going to take that and plug it back in here, leaving the y as the y. 4 times p, which is 3, x gets the x. And I get y squared equals 12x.
So if it's symmetric to the x-axis,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
it's y squared equals, and if it's symmetric to the y-axis, it's x squared equals?
Correct. And then you got to figure out from the point, is it pointing to the right or left, or is it pointing up or down? Like if this coordinate point was negative 3, 6, I would have gone 1, 2, 3, up 6. Now I'd know it point to the left. So it would change my 4p to a negative 4p. Does that make sense? Okay. Any other questions from the first page?
Sorry, can you zoom in on the graph for a second?
For which one? For 6?
Yeah.
All right, questions on 7 or 8? Still finding the equation, just given lots of different information.
Oh, I have just like a general question.
Awesome.
So if the directrix is an x equals, then the axis of symmetry is a y equals?
Correct. Because one runs through it
And the other one
and one runs behind it or above it, right? They're always opposite. So good question. I don't know if you guys heard Audrey, but she said if the directrix is an x equals, then the axis symmetry has to be a y equals or vice versa. And that is true. They'll never be the same letter. Okay, the 9 and 10, we get to the ellipse. So if I give you the equation of the ellipse and you have to graph it, find the center, find the vertices and the foci. You also have to find the co-vertices to get yourself that drawing, but you won't have to put the line. If you look at the lines on the answer sheet, you'll see that they just say center, vertices, foci. So again, remember from home to print the answer sheet, or if you don't have a printer, get a piece of paper and model it to look like the answer sheet. You guys, I have yours. If you're in person. Yeah.
Can we do 10?
Sure. So I'm just going to rewrite it off to the side so we can start at x minus 1 squared. Do it from scratch. Oops, plus. Okay, so first of all, I know it's an ellipse because it's a plus in between, right? Because these could get mixed in together. It's not equal to 1. So I have to divide by 2, and dividing by 2 is the same thing as multiplying by a half. This becomes x minus 1 squared over 2 times 18, which is 36. And then y plus 4 squared times 1/2, so the 2 times 8 becomes 16. So I know that it's an ellipse. I know that it is, the bigger number is under the 36, so the a squared is 36, and that's under the x, which means it's horizontal. It's going to be wider than it is tall. A squared is 36, so a is 6. B squared is 16. Why did I put B to the 4th? B squared is 16, so B is 4.
I'm confused. How did you get 36 and 16 at the bottom? I divided it by 2, so I'm dividing the denominator by 2, so I got...
You're not dividing the denominator by 2, you'd be dividing the numerator by 2, right? And there's nothing in the numerator, so it's the same thing as multiplying by a half. If the 18 was in the top, then you would cut the 18 in half. But because the 18's in the bottom, remember dividing by 2 is the same thing as multiplying by a half. Yeah. So now and then my c squared for an ellipse would be a squared minus b squared. So I'd go c squared equals 36 minus 16, c squared equals 20. C would equal the square root of 20. So when I draw that, it's in between 16 and 25. We can make that like a 4.5. But when I use it to find the foci, I have to simplify it. That would be 4 and 5, or 2 root 5. Now I'd go to my graph. My center comes from my numerator, opposite of what follows x, which is 1, opposite of what follows y, negative 4. So 1, negative 4. It's horizontal, so I go right and left the a, which is 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So those are my vertices. Negative 5, negative 4, and positive 7, negative 4. I go up and down my B. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can draw my ellipse already. The last thing I have to find is my foci. So I add and subtract the square root of 20 or the 2 root 5. We said that would be about a 4.5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5. That's a foci. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5. That's the other one. So I'm going left and right, 2 root 5. 1 plus and minus 2 root 5 and negative 4. You're welcome. So if it was the vertical one, like if it's number 9 and the larger number's under the y, I go up and down that a. But everything else is, I go up and down the a and I go up and down the c, which means my y is going to change. Okay, then 11 and 12, equations of an ellipse in standard form. Again, you won't get like you're not going to get as many questions on these. Obviously, right, this review was 20. Your test, I told you, was 9. But you could get different kinds of information, so you want to be prepared for all of it. So in 11, I give you the vertices and the minor axis, and in 12, I give you the vertices and the foci. Everybody's good on those? Yeah?
The minor axis and the major axis, those are the same as like in the hyperbolas, the transverse axis and the
Conjugate. Yep. All right, 13 and 14, graphing hyperbolas. Wait for it. Why is it blurry now? It wasn't blurry before. Okay, so 16 gave you the co-vertices, right? So this is where you can find the B, not the A, and then the asymptotes. So because you want to find from the 3, negative 2 and the 7, negative 2, that tells you that this would be vertical because the co-vertices are on the opposite axis, right? So this would be vertical. The halfway point between those points is your center, which is the 5, negative 2. The distance from the 5, negative 2 to the co-vertices was 2, and that tells you B is 2. Then you have to go to your asymptotes. So your asymptotes tell you that y equals, they're both the same. It should be plus and minus. So it's negative 2 plus and minus 5x minus 5. The center should match up. So this is the x coordinate of my center, the y coordinate of my center. I changed the sign on the h though, remember, because it's x minus 5. That means it's 5. That lines up with my center. So that's the first check. Okay. Then I get my little ratio. That 5, because it's vertical, that 5 equals A over B. Now I don't know A, but I know B is 2.
Wait, how do you know B is 2?
So when you graph these are your co-vertices, right? Those are the only thing they give you in the beginning. When I graph those, I then find the midpoint between them, and that's the vertex.
Okay.
or the center, and then from that point to each co-vertex is your B.
Okay.
If it had given me vertex, then I would have counted and it would have been my A.
I don't know what I did then. Like, oh no. I don't know why I thought B was 1. But
Your center's right though?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Maybe because it's 5 and it's a whole number, you thought if it's a ratio that it would be over 1, maybe. So, but what you want to say is A over B equals 5 and B equals 2. So if 5 equals A over 2 and I want to find A, I just multiply by 2 and I get A is 10. So now I have the A, I have the B. I know that it's vertical because it was the co-vertices on the horizontal. You're good from there. Yeah, okay. I would say, like, as soon as you figure out which direction it starts, start your equation. Because as soon as I know it's vertical, I know it's a y squared minus an x squared. Then I find the center. Now I've got y plus 2 squared minus x minus 5 squared. I already have that part. Because even if you don't get all the way through this kind of a question, I can give partial credit. So I could give you partial credit on, say, your numerators being right. Like that part, I can give you partial credit on. So you just want to be careful. So Taji, there are 6 questions on finding the equations. And there's 9 total. So 6 questions on finding, 3 questions on graphing, and 2 of those will be complete the square.
Are we gonna have something like this question?
I'm trying to think if the one on the test gives you co-vertices. I think the one on the test maybe gives you vertices with the asymptotes, but you're definitely going to see one with the asymptotes. But I think it gives you vertices not. So just be really careful. Just make sure you read it really carefully. You definitely get one with the equation, and you got to figure out your A over B or your B over A. All right, so 17 says vertices of 0, 6, and 0, negative 6. So that's like in this picture, that's the first thing that I drew. I draw my little coordinate grid, and I would say, okay, vertices 0, 6 is up on the y-axis, 0, negative 6 is down on the y-axis. So this tells me this is vertical, which means it's a y squared minus an x squared. It also tells me that my center point is halfway between them. So my center is 0, 0. So from there, I can already start with my y squared minus my x squared equals 1. Now all I got to do is find the denominators. So because it gives me my vertices, I can count from that center to the actual coordinate point in either direction, and I get my A is 6. Now I've got that part because A squared would be 36. Before I even move on to this second part. So I know that what I'm missing is the B squared, and that point gives me nothing about B. What it does give me is an X and a Y. So I'm going to take this equation and I'm going to plug in the X and Y. So the Y would be negative 8, that would be squared, over 36, minus the X is 2 squared over B squared equals 1. Now B is my only unknown, so I'm going to work to solve it. This would be 64 over 36 minus 4 over B squared equals 1. I can reduce the 64 over 36. 4 goes into both of those. It'd be 16 and 9. So I have 16 ninths minus 4B squared equals 1. I want to subtract the 16 ninths from both sides. I have negative 4 over B squared equals this 1 minus 16 ninths becomes 9 ninths minus 16 ninths, which is negative 7 ninths. Cross multiply here and I get negative 36 equals negative 7B squared. Divide both sides by negative 7. And B squared is 36 over 7. So I think I said it yesterday, but you are going to see super yucky questions. Like you could see a yucky fraction there. You don't have to do anything other than that than to plug it into this space. So you're not doing any math on that. So it could be ugly. And I'd get y squared over 36 minus x squared over 36 over 7 equals 1. And you can leave it just like that. Leave the 36 over 7 in the denominator. Helen, if you want more practice with that, that was definitely, God bless you. That was in the hyperbola section. We had to do those where we got the passes through. And they were pretty similar. So you can go back and practice another example if you want. Do it as though it says 47. It probably got ugly. But I'll do it that way. Okay? And then also try to go back and do it as though it says 55. Because I think.
did it as 55.
Okay. Oh, so you want me to do it as 55?
If you
Okay, yeah. All right, so we're going to group it, right? So 9x squared plus 54x minus y squared plus 10y. Bump the 55 to the other side. Then take out the 9. 6x. Take out the negative. Complete the square. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. Add the 9 here. Multiply it times the 9 on the front. So this 9 times that 9. And add 81. Repeat the process for the y. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 5 squared is 25. Add that here. Take the 25 and multiply it times the negative that's on the front. So I'm subtracting 25. So negative 55 plus 81 minus 25 becomes 1, right? Yeah. Oh, this is why I changed it. So I get here minus y squared minus 5 squared, oh, not y squared, y minus 5 squared equals 1. And then that would actually be your standard form. So I didn't give you one with a number on the front because that, remember, we have to pull down to the bottom because you can't have something over it. So the one on your test, you shouldn't end up with something on the front.
Okay. Wait, so in your standard form, you can keep the 9 there?
No, you have to bring it to the bottom. Yeah. And then from there, your center, right, is negative 3, 5. I know it's a hyperbola. The a squared is 1/9, so the a is 1/3. The b squared is 1, so the b is 1. C squared would equal a squared plus b squared, 10/9. So c would equal the square root of 10 over 3. And then I would just graph it. So you will have a whole number there. So it would be negative 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'd go, this was what, horizontal? So I go right and left 1/3. And I go up and down 1. Make the box. Draw the asymptotes. And then branches.
For the asymptote, I got a weird number.
Probably, oh no, wait. So it should have been y equals 5 plus and minus 1 over 1/3. Yep, x plus 3, and then 1 divided by 1/3. Keep change flip. And it becomes 3.
I have a question.
So if you did it with the original 55 like it was posted, I'd encourage you to go back and practice this one with the 47, which is what I intended it to be. I forgot to change it apparently. Because you will not get a fraction in the denominator. You should get that whole number in the denominator. Yeah.
On our test tomorrow, for when we're writing out our answers, do we have to write it as 2 separate answers? Like,
No, you can keep it as plus and minus.
okay, and if we get like a fraction, do we have to simplify it?
Always.
Or not like simplify, like,
But turn it from improper.
yeah.
You can keep it improper. Yeah.
Ms. Griswold,
Yeah.
would we ever have to like graph the foci, or can we just write them down?
So as long as the foci is on your line, that's what I'm gonna check. You can graph it, but if you don't have time to graph it, just go to the line, just make sure it's on that line. The only reason I would encourage the graphing of it is like a check yourself. Because if you go to graph it and it doesn't fall in that range, then you know something's wrong. Like if you go to graph your foci and it's not inside the scoop, you would know something's wrong. Or if it was an ellipse and it's outside the ellipse, you would know something's wrong. But if you don't have the time, I just want to make sure it makes it onto that line. That's fine.
Miss Griswold?
Yeah.
For the parabola and the hyperbola, do we have to graph extra points?
No?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Griswold,
Yeah.
It's like a general question, but when there's like a number, like for the ellipses, if there's like a number on the other side of zero and you have to like divide, you're not actually dividing, you're like multiplying by the reciprocal, right?
Give me an example of what you're saying. Another sign, like if it's an ellipse already in standard form, but there's an equals and there's a number on the other side.
Yeah.
So normally it's like 9x plus 1 squared plus 4. I think this is like one of the ones like you had, like this. And it was this.
No. Oh, yeah.
So then I divide everything by 36. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, but like the one that I'm talking about, like it was like x plus 1 squared over 9.
Okay.
You had to do it.
And then there's another number on the other side.
Yeah, like that.
So it was a fraction over here, right? It would have been like 1/3. I don't know. So I'd have to multiply everything.
It wasn't a fraction though.
Oh, it was a whole number? That's what you mean?
Yeah.
Like 3?
Yeah.
So yeah, so
Yeah.
dividing by 3 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/3.
Like it wouldn't be like 9 over 3, which is equal, like you wouldn't simplify it like that.
Correct.
Okay.
It'd be, if you were dividing, you'd actually be dividing this by 3, which is the same thing as multiplying the 9 by 3.
Okay, but for the one above it, it
You
would
would-
be like,
You would divide, but this number should simplify into the bottom number.
okay,
Yep, because you want to get rid of the number on the front.
thank you.
You're welcome. All right, our wonky random bell is about to ring. All right, now we're clear. Okay, so center is 2, -1. The a squared is still 16, and the b squared is still 25. The x comes first, so that's horizontal. All that stuff is still right. And then the c squared is a squared plus b squared because it's a hyperbola. So this would end up being the square root of 41, which when we graph it is going to be 6.5-ish. So now I want to plot my center to -1. I want to go right and left the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Left, 3, 4. Those are my vertices. So that would be -2, -1, and +6. -1. No, +5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, 6. Okay. Then I want to do my B, which is 5, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to draw my little box. I'm going to put my asymptotes through the corners. I'm going to draw my branches off the horizontal points. So here, and here, and here, and here. My asymptotes, because this is a horizontal one, the asymptote would be y equals k plus and minus b over a x minus h. So y would equal -1 plus and minus, my b is 5, my a is 4, x minus x minus 2. So that's my asymptotes, y equals -1 plus and minus 5/4, x minus 2. And you could leave it just like that, okay? If it was a b over a, that could be simplified. Obviously, you need to do that, but you don't need to separate these out into 2. You can give it to me as plus and minus. And then the last thing I need to graph is the foci and find the equation, the points is the foci. So I'm going right and left, root 41, which we said was about 6.5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5. Those are my foci, which means I'm changing the x value to plus and minus the square root of 41 and -1. That's with the right center.
For ellipse, the a squared goes under the bigger term, and for hyperbola, it's under the first term.
Correct. You guys like ditch, so I just want to make sure I cover any kind of questions that were on your quiz. Overall, you guys did really well on this quiz, which is a good sign of what's to come for tomorrow. I have high hopes for you people. Okay, obviously we added on the complete the square, but we did a lot of practice this week, so hopefully we're feeling confident in that. But I'm hoping to see some good grades on those things. The only feedback I would give you is I tried to catch it on your work this time, which hopefully made the feedback easier. Some of you just really watch your signs on your, like where the 4P went. There was not one question that was missed by a lot of people. There was not one mistake that was made over and over again. It was just a little bit back and forth.